The controversial Bakun Dam is one of the largest concrete-faced, rock-filled dams in the world. When the water poured in late last year, it flooded almost 700 square kilometres, an area the size of Singapore. Much of it is hundreds of metres deep. I join a group heading back to the place they were born, at the far end of the dam, on what used to be the Ranjang River. It's a 4-hour journey to Long Jawe, and along the way we pass many picturesque villages. It's just that they're hundreds of metres below us. Bakun Dam is only the beginning. The state government, working in consultancy with Hydro Tasmania, is embarking on one of the most ambitious plans in the history of hydropower. It wants to build 12 dams like this one, flooding vast tracts of river valley land and displacing tens of thousands of indigenous people. Those who've already lost their land and their homes have nothing but contempt for the project. Lian Nao tells me he was given less than half the land he was promised by the government.
Di kebagi tanah me ami daura di tusuk ika sirvang cek duvang amin na ujung-ujung dekat loika do ni rena aku mai tepat ika wilau bandra be barang bangun ilo nanginyeun na ujung-ujung ni pabrik dan odi nombor wa ko bolo dak gran tanah ya teloikanye rena milonya no.
Former Senator Idris Buang is a spokesman for the Sarawak Energy Board, which buys power from the dam. Some of the people I've spoken to that were relocated from Bakun Dam and are now living in Sungai Asap complain that they didn't receive the amount of compensation that they were promised.
They ought to receive, unless something had happened along the way,
What might have happened?
But we don't know, some administrative, hitch probably. But nevertheless, they ought to be compensated. It will be illegal, actually, if they're not.
Billions have been generated out of the Bakun Dam, billions, and it's a small population. They've been given a very meagre slice of the profits.
Claire Rucastle-Brown is an investigative journalist who writes a blog called the Sarawak Report. She says Hydro Tasmania is not working to its own standards because their contract partner does not comply with its ideals.
The local people still don't know where they're going to be moved to when they're flooded out of their homes. No one's been consulted, no one's been told anything. How can this equate to the highest benchmark of corporate and social responsibility?
I think you can rest assured that the state government is very, very serious in considering the fate of the people affected. The government is very concerned in terms of giving them restitution, compensatory in nature, and although they cannot get the very thing that they lost, but at least they'll be put into a better position than before, economically, socially.
The government says the dams will eventually generate enormous power and will lead to job opportunities for all.
In 2020, we are poised to create something like more than 1 million jobs. In 2030, it's more than 2 million jobs.
Hydro Tasmania is providing consultancy services.
We are delighted to be working with an organisation that values the sustainable development of hydropower. We're delighted to be working with what is one of the major opportunities in the world for the careful development of 20 gigawatts of capacity, which is a significant volume of capacity, which will fundamentally change the economic base of Sarawak.
A win-win situation.
The Sarawak Energy Board, or SEB, are also delighted.
We get expertise, we get guidance, we get the 100 years experience from Tasmania, for example, you know.
Does it also give you an image boost? A PR, does it improve your public relations to have
You see
Hydro
that-
Tasmania
I-
involved?
Well, if there's any image boost, it just come naturally. It just come, but that is not our intention.
The chairman of the SEB is Hamed Sapawi.
In some ways green, in some ways. Because we don't actually...
He's also the chairman of the giant timber group Ta'an. Each company has entered into a separate Tasmanian deal.
There's a very worrying relationship between the exploiters of Tasmania and the exploiters of Sarawak. Whether it's forests or whether it's damming wild and magnificent rivers,
You're not concerned by the persistent allegations of swirl around SEB?
Well, I can only speak on what we have found. I have found them to be a first-class professional outfit. They deal with the best standards of doing business. They have the highest standards of safety and sustainability very much at the heart of what they're doing.
It's like a sort of James Bond megalomaniac vision.
Rucastle Brown happens to be the sister-in-law of the former British Prime Minister Gordon Brown. She's a very vocal critic of the whole system of governance and accountability in Sarawak.
You can have the development argument, that's fair enough. But this hasn't been about development and progress for the people of Sarawak. It's been about money siphoned out into foreign bank accounts.
As the valley flooded, the villagers cut sections off the longhouse and wedged trees underneath. When the waters rose, so did the structures.
Ini ada dapurnya, yang longhouse punya kita tenggelamkan, yang dapur kita naik. Rumah panjang tidak bisa
Tidak bisa angkat lagi.
terlalu besar.
Iya, terlalu besar. Tapi dia punya tiang pun besar.
Today they're moving what's left of their house a couple of 100 metres across the lake.
Mengapa mau pindah ke sana? Kita kena sungai, kita nak cari lokasi yang lebih dalam. Karena kalau kita nak dicetek, dia akan sengen. Bila air turun, dia akan sengen.
Murid taruh ni lu ni oh. Wana pun di umak ni no po papek lu tapetuk no. Nah peta tak di telo no. Bukilo di uba un meeting katalo na bang ni on ngalut na katalo di melawat ceuma ng ceuma no.
It's the fate of the church which really upsets him.
Un gereja ni kusa lek kene kimat di gereja ni o tam kini ni. Nah Lando tayo di tapeting nga di. Tu salit dalam kimata kita.
Even though the government built them their new longhouse, they say the construction is substandard and the location doesn't provide a livelihood. And as the years pass by, memories of their old village on the river are fading.
Umak di ya ini umak murung dai. Yang bergereja bang.
Nè,
Bergereja ini
tu ra bala di Japannya dah nak mak pun ni lo dah. Nè, anh mẹ lo là thằng này nè.
Nya ketika aku di matahari ngak dah. Jika lihat aku sungai ini.
it's the end of a universe. It's the end of their history. It's the end of their culture. It's the end of their way of life and productivity and raising their kids and telling them about their grandparents and what happened before. All that.
Recently retired Greens leader Bob Brown is disturbed that Hydro Tasmania has played a role in this by providing consulting services.
Which engineer in Hydro Tasmania is going to understand what it means to an Indigenous person in Sarawak to have their whole life and history obliterated by a huge concrete dam?
On his first visit this far up Bakun Dam, Philip Jow is horrified by what he sees. He's from the Baram River, next on Sarawak's list to dam.
They just want to take our land, to destroy us, destroy our future, the future of our children, drown our land, drown our forests, drown our rivers.
He's been leading protests against the Baram Dam, but is understandably worried that no one is listening.
I've traveled and I've visited and I've talked to the people in all the houses to be affected. They all don't want this bloody dam. So the government must listen to the people and stop and cancel, scrap this bloody and stupid Baram Dam.
He directs his anger at the foreigners with the Sarawak Energy Board, the Tasmanians and the Norwegian CEO, who's on a salary package of more than $4 million per year.
You have no right. You are a foreigner. You have no right to speak for the people. You only come to Long Na'ar for 3 days and you say majority of people want the dam. This is stupid. You are lying. You get out of this state of Sarawak. Don't ever come to Baram. You are saying nonsense. You are saying a blatant lie. You are not telling the truth. I am from Baram. I know what the people feel. You get out of Baram.
They claim that there was no consultation with the local people on Baram, that it's...
As I said, it's underway. The process is being conducted now. There's nothing complete yet.
When will construction of Baram begin?
Well...
For exact detail, he needs to consult a Tasmanian, who appears to know much more than the people about to be flooded from their homes.
2014.
Claire Rucastle-Brown says it's unacceptable for a Tasmanian public company to be getting involved in this.
Where's the accountability? Where's the consultation? Where are the environmental impact assessments? These things should be bread and butter for a company that abides by the highest standards.
Right now, feasibility studies are being done, and you know that social, environmental impact are underway.
But there's nothing that's going to stop that, is that right?
As it is, it has to go on. I mean, there's as I said, the need to have all this done that we plan for, overrides any other thing, you know, in the interest of the greater good of Sarawakians.
There's a secrecy at the top levels of state in Tasmania and in Sarawak about what's going on. The people don't know. They don't know who's getting the money. They don't know who's wielding the influence. And they don't know in either place what the plans are for the future. They should know, because they'd be worried if they did know.
Mr. Speaker, my question is the Minister for Energy.
In Tasmania, Brown's former colleagues are searching for answers too.
Minister, as Shareholder Minister for Hydro Tasmania, you would be aware that I've made a right to information application seeking information about the work that...
Kim Booth has asked several questions in Parliament about the Hydro Tasmania deal with the Sarawak Energy Board.
You would also be aware that Hydro Tasmania refused to release any information.
The Sarawak Energy Board objected to the release of the information, and Hydro Tasmania deemed the details
of a commercial and financial nature,
which would, if disclosed,
be likely to expose Hydro Tasmania to a competitive disadvantage.
Booth was told, however, that the work was
in accordance with the highest standards of sustainability and entirely consistent with the values of Hydro Tasmania.
Whilst this is reassuring, Minister, it is relatively meaningless given that he did not also provide detail on how these values are assessed and weighed up against the risk of undertaking work in politically unstable places like Sarawak on projects that have displaced thousands of Indigenous people.
In fact, they're blocking normal requests under access for right to information is being blocked by Hydro Tasmania for no apparent good reason.
Rucastle-Brown is critical of what she says is a disturbing lack of accountability.
They would never get away with that in a project in Australia. Why is it okay to do it here in Borneo? I mean, they are ruining one of the most precious environments left on our planet. That's why we care.